Welcome, sir.
Welcome.
Pretend like we didn't say hello.
Yeah, right.
Is there anywhere you want to start in specific?
I'm just waiting.
So, one thing that's intrigued me that we've talked about a little bit is like looking at childhood trauma or like things that happened to you in your childhood.
Right.
And I know that you've expressed that that was like a big kind of turning point for you, or like, like I know that was something that you explored a little bit later on, correct?
Like being aware of the trauma, or like, what do you mean by exploring?
Maybe like really dissecting it, or like
Yeah, I mean,
figuring out what you're carrying now from back then.
yeah, I mean, I feel like we don't, you can't dissect the trauma, or, well, they say trauma is not the event, but it's how you stay attached to the event, right? And how do you become aware of what you're attached to until you wake up? And you can look back and reflect and see, oh, that's what's driven me, right? Through time and what have you. And yeah, I mean, as a person asleep in your own life, when you go through your life unconsciously through your traumas and, escaping those events, whether it be through people, places, things, substances, or that sort of thing. I mean, you kind of just create a life and, of dis-ease and kind of bury things, right? When I walked in, I had mentioned, I had this thought this morning about, my 42-year-old self today. Like when I was a young kid, if I was aware and present that every thought, behavior, and action, if I would become aware that those actions would affect me today, or that I would have these memories of all those things, right? And as humans, we tend to, attach to the negative events because they're the most impactful. Sometimes when you go through an experience of traumatic events and say substance or alcohol abuse or these things, you don't attach to the joy that this world has to offer, right?
Sure.
You become attached to those negative events and therefore continually live in a dimension that maybe this universe didn't create for us, kind of thing, So if I were to reflect back on traumatic events, I mean, there's just so many, right? And it just shapes us who we become. And, I heard recently that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world through our trauma, or through like a negative lens or a negative slide, right? And that's a pretty wild thought to understand, that we're just not that present in our own lives, or a lot of us aren't, right? And that's how I lived.
When it comes to maybe young people today, or just in general, how many young people do you think are actually taught that, or are aware that?
Maybe 1%, because it stems from leadership in the home, right? And how many mothers and fathers are present where conscious lead themselves and then connect to their kids' heart and soul, and can lead themselves through, principle centeredness and driven by their own personal values, right? We're driven by what the environment offers, or the conformity of what's brought in around us, right?
And sorry.
No.
You go ahead.
No. So that's an interesting question, because I don't think most kids aren't taught that. And they say kids do what's caught, not what's taught. And what's caught is what they see their parents doing. We become human doings, not human beings. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me wonder, like if you looked at maybe that 1%, if it is that, what does their teenage years and like early adulthood look like, like, I mean, ultimately, hopefully, probably just healthy and like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when the world really becomes your oyster, right? When you have that innate sense of being human and understanding these innate core principles of what it means to be human, and you're propelled by an incredible vision as opposed to being sucked back into the negativity of past thoughts, emotions, traumas, that sort of thing, right?
that expression, like caught, not taught, I've never heard that before, but like reflecting on it is like, yeah. Like my childhood was great and like my relationship with my parents is like amazing. But there's not like a memory I can recall where it was like, hey, like we just want to talk about, you know, emotions and how important they are, or like being vulnerable, right? Or like nothing of that nature ever that I remember. Mom and Dad, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but you know, I remember the first time like I ever saw my dad cry. That was like shattered like the view of my father in a good way, but it was like I didn't even know that and then like he shared about his experience, like what was making him so upset, and I was like, I'd never seen or heard my dad talk like this ever, you know.
And as a result of that, do you feel like that was impactful for you and showed you what it's like to be a young boy and become a man with emotions or understand emotions?
Yeah, I don't think at the time it was as impactful as it was reflecting on it later on.
Right.
You know?
And I feel like that's always the experience of being human. In the moment, unless again we're present, conscious, and aware, we don't understand the impact. But fast forward days, weeks, months, years, you look back, you're like, wow.
Yeah. Like that was big. And then another moment was like at my 2-year cake, I think. My dad was there and he was like sharing and crying, and I was like, what the like I never like that was the second time ever, right?
Right.
But these like stuff that like really made us, you know, upset or was like in a big emotional upheaval, if you will, was like never really discussed in the house.
Right.
So when it came to, I mean, I would say my mom is more in tune with the emotional side than my father, which, you know, to a degree in a general way is kind of...
Seems natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, since it was never practiced, like if my mother ever tried to talk to me about how I felt, which she did at times, it was like I was like so closed off or didn't even know how to identify what was going on with me.
Right.
So it was like a conversation that I was not willing to have.
Well, how do you receive what you don't know? Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, like at your 2-year cake, experiencing watching your dad have emotion and crying as opposed when you were younger. What was the difference in impact of those two different events?
I think the first one was like, I mean, without getting into details, it was like a traumatic event for my father.
Right.
So he was like pretty, for lack of a better term, like fucked up about it.
Of course.
Versus this 2-year cake thing was like, he was like...
Pride, joy, love.
Yeah. So it was like a lot different.
Right.
I don't know, just that feeling of my dad being proud of me was just like really felt good, man. Like it almost like brings stuff up now.
I can see it. I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, like understanding the why behind whether it's a boy or the girl. Like dad seems to be on that shelf, and why, like what is it about that you know, we just want our dad to be proud. Mom's like kind of bottom shelf, dad's up here, right? It's like we're always seeking that approval, and I don't know if it's like a masculine energy kind of thing or what it is, but I sometimes think about that. Right? Yeah, it's wild. It doesn't help that I'm reading a book right now about masculine and feminine energy, so Yeah,
That's an interesting thing to think about.
it is.
I wonder why that is.
Sometimes we have to think about what we think about. That's where sometimes meditation is super helpful, right? Yeah. Yeah, the whole emotions thing, I've probably shared with you before, but I never knew what emotions were. I didn't know that a feeling, you actually felt it. Whether it's a feeling in your throat, which is linked to guilt, I think, and shame, or, a feeling that's stuck in the chest, or whatever it is. It's bizarre. The head and the heart were not connected, right? Like this one guy I listened to says, we have the super computer, but we don't know how to use the keyboard, right? And so we live in this body that does things, when it's exposed to certain things. And if you don't know how to respond to what's happening inside of our body, that's tricky, man.
Yeah.
And for a guy like you and a guy like me, that the old way to live was to just use something to escape, right? That was the solution. And now life's a bit different. It's interesting. I heard recently as well, this one guy I listened to, he says that we're not intended to feel things be trapped in our body. Like, people will say, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm ashamed. And it's incorrect, because you aren't those things. You're the one that's aware of those things. And you experience anger, you experience guilt, you experience shame, but that's not who you are. And he talks about when something happens outside you, caused from the environment or other people, and something happens within you and it gets stuck or what have you, that's a blockage. And so that's where the work is, right? As a naturally spiritual beings, if we have, inner peace and serenity and that kind of stuff, any energy that comes in ought to just go out, and we ought to have flow and be aligned with that reality,
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And a big one for me is like fear. That is definitely something in my chest.
Right.
For me, or the two big, breakups I've had in my life, right? With the two serious relationships I've had up until this point. When those happened, it was heartbreak.
Yeah.
My chest really hurt, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have a fucking jammer, But it was it definitely is. I'm able to identify it as just the physiological response now. Whereas before, I had no idea.
Right.
It was just I guess this is what it feels like to be heartbroken, and let's just get rid of it,
Right.
And I think that's been even doing this podcast, right? It's I'll tell myself all the reasons why not to do it, and just keep living in the fear, and it doesn't just go away. It's not just oh, see you later. It's I feel I'm kind of faced with two options, and maybe this is I'd like to hear your take on this, but it's either I need to work on letting this go and just accepting where I'm at right now, or I need to change something.
Right.
And those are kind of that's it. And if I can't do the accepting piece, then it's you have to change something.
Right.
And it's probably going to be tough.
Right. Well, the question is, when you are in that moment, how are you seeing it? Are you seeing it through a traumatic lens? Or are you seeing it through surrender, peace, humility, which to me is just oneness with the universe? And then what's the intention and motive behind it, right? Fear is a physiological effect, they say, of things outside of ourselves. If a lion's, about to eat you or something like that. But it's not intended to hold on to, right? So, yeah, it's interesting how the mind will spiral when you go into that sort of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think if we have a dream and a vision so big, and it's aligned again with core principles and driven by our values, then why not?
Yeah.
Is it fear or is it self-esteem? you know, that we because we think about what other people think about us, right? And that's the issue with self-esteem, right? As opposed to not saying F you about what you think, but being so principally centered and knowing that the path you're on is the path intended for you. And the noise doesn't matter because there's always noise.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been thinking that exact thing a lot lately. Like, no matter what I decide to do or anybody decides to do, is like everyone's going to have an opinion on it. Which I think I told you yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So, and not even knowing the opinions, but just thinking about the opinions can prevent me from even taking any action.
Right.
Without even knowing how it's going to be perceived, right?
Right.
Like, and, you know, it's like linked to self-esteem for me in the sense of like, you know, my self-esteem is good when I'm doing like esteemable acts or doing things that I love or like enjoy doing, right? This, for example, you know, is like, you and I would have this conversation anyway, whether or not how this performs.
We had it last night.
Yeah. This is really irrelevant.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that?
So here's a question for you. When you think about these things, do you ask yourself, like, is this calling your soul? Is this your inner self? You know, because you're not Daniel. That was a name given to you. You're the one that's aware of what's going on. Your soul, your being. When you're doing this, does this call to that inner part of you?
For sure, to a degree. Like, I really like having conversations, and I really like video, you know?
Right.
So it's like, it feels like a good mesh of the two. Because outside of this is like, I still want to do like individual, just video stuff, right? So I think so. Like, I think so.
Yeah.
And it seems to be aligning well with where I'd like to go. Like, I don't know. It feels good having the conversation, but it also just feels good like doing something that I like.
Right. And so how long have you been doing this for?
Wow. 2 years?
Yeah.
2, 3. 3 even, maybe?
Yeah. So we talked earlier about reflecting back, not necessarily in the moment, but reflecting back. So if you reflect back and looked at those first few that you did, does it seem aligned with what you're doing today? And does it all feel good? Yeah. Well, then there you go.
Yeah. And the, like, I feel like the motive behind it has changed a little bit, or the, you know, mission, if you will. Like, in the beginning, it was like recovery. Like, if someone could get something out of this and get sober, awesome.
Right.
Which is like, if that happens still, great. But it's not like, I just like having conversations, you know?
Right.
Like, not every guest that I have needs to be in recovery.
Right.
But just someone I'm interested in talking to, you know? Because I feel like that was really limiting my pool of people. And like, I don't know, limiting my audience too, I guess. Not that is like I said, these are only getting like 100 views, couple hundred views, right? It's not like they're off the charts, but.
Right. But hey, everybody had to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. No, I would love to do this myself. I've thought about it often, right? Because, you know, you're not unique. I'm not unique, but your story is unique to you because you've experienced it.
Yeah.
And as mine is to me and as everybody else is to everybody else, right? And so when you connect with another human on a deep level, it's interesting what comes out, right? They say when two minds come together, a third mind evolves from that.
Sure.
Right? And that's why a good connection will bring about so many different ideas and what have you, right? Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
What, like, from the outside, you know, I'm like, you're such an awesome dad, you know? Like, I feel like any kid would be really lucky to have you as their father.
Right.
What was like, how much of a conscious effort was it to like change your parenting after you got sober, or was it something that just kind of naturally, like, I'm just kind of leading by example now? Or was it? I don't know if I worded that properly, but
No, it's fine. You know, and I that's a question I've thought about over the years. You know, my daughter, she'll be 17 in March. When my daughter's mom and I weren't together, or when my daughter's mother and I, had Jada, when Jada was born, her mother and I weren't together, and when she was 9 or 10 months old, we got together. But in those first few months, I said to her mom, I said, I want my daughter half the time. At 2 weeks old, I started taking her out on my own, and after 9 or 10 months, we got back together. But it was from the very first moment I found out I was going to be a father that I knew that I would give that kid what I never had, which was, that connection, the deep affection and love, the leadership, the explanation of emotions, and, my goal for my daughter, like, if she can reach her potential, or if she can understand her potential, then as a human, I've succeeded. And as a father, I've succeeded. And I feel that I've done that already, and when I was, drinking most days and whatnot, I showed up for my daughter. The difference between then and when I stopped drinking 3.5 years ago was that the head and the heart were aligned, and I was finally leading myself, as opposed from leading by ego and a mask, right? It's a pretty wild experience, I always did the absolute best I could, and it's an incredible experience. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah.
But it's definitely different now than it was, like my daughter didn't experience, from what I understand, like that I drank a bit. I always put stuff in a cup and what have you, right? And so I tried to shield her from that a bit. However, saying that, anyone that's in our path, when you're drinking, they're going to get the result of alcoholic behavior, what have you, regardless, right?
Yeah.
So, on today I just, show up with my potential, or trying to reach my potential, and therefore, again, hopefully she does what's caught, not what's taught.
Sure.
Because kids don't like to listen, you probably know that. But it's funny how they do things in the background, even things you suggest, but they just don't want to take your advice because, well, they're kids. They're adults in a kid's body, right?
Yeah, sure.
So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like when I was, I wouldn't say I was like a horrible teenager, but, my dad definitely tried to teach me a lot and keep me away from stuff that maybe wasn't super great for me.
Right.
And, rightfully so. And a lot of the stuff he had his own experience with, didn't always share that piece, but, it was kind of like, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And like reflecting back on a lot of the stuff that, he said to me or like tried to show me, a lot of it makes a lot of sense now.
Right.
But at the time it was like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? When we talk about like childhood trauma, a lot of that stuff is generational trauma. And I know some of my mom's story and some of my dad's story, and I don't have an incredible relationship with my father today because of the journey that he's on. However, going through my journey, I've been able to find compassion, empathy, forgiveness, and all of those things. But I also had a couple other stepdads in my life as well. And I have an older brother as well that was kind of an older male figure, right? And it's interesting, we can look at the negative or the positive, and we had a lot of fun as kids, but there was lots of experience that weren't so great either, that shapes us to become what we become. Yeah, it's kind of lost my train of thought there.
Where, like, what are your plans career-wise right now?
Career-wise,
Yeah.
you know, one of those things, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. You know, everything, you know, when you think you're on a path, and when I was your age, I was on a path that kind of fell apart, right? So you grow and you learn, and, you know, you educate yourself a bit, and, you know, then you look back and think, you know, where was I going with it? Or, you know, the career that I'm in now, you know, like, I've been in the industry I'm in for 20 years, and it was all by accident. I went into a business and seen that they were looking for people and dropped off a resume, and then poof, you know, through the 20 years, I've had lots of different jobs and titles, but I'm still in that industry. And, you know, I guess for me, Daniel, I look at a career and a vocation. Like, for me, I want a vocation that calls out my soul. So kind of what I had said earlier, like, you know, if we have goals that are calling out our soul and pulling us towards them, then it's not so much like we have to go to work. It's like, this is just a part of the path, and it feels great. Am I in that now? Hard to say for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, but it's one of those things too. The way I live my life today is I'm very principle centered. I'm very value driven, and, you know, I know that there's some pretty incredible things in this universe for me. You know, and doors, they open. We don't know where or from who or when, but if we live right, if, you know, we're the right kind of human to have the right kind of job, wife, or all these things, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where the faith has to come in.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. Not being able to see the door or know where it is, but having the faith that something will happen. Yeah. And maybe we're in it. We don't know. You know, how about you? You've had a career change here in the last year or two, and have a direction that's pulling you?
I don't really know either.
Yeah.
Like, I love my job for sure.
Yeah.
And it has its challenges like any other job would.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about not knowing?
I think that's the piece that, like, that gets me.
Right.
You know? Is like, it's hard not to look for other things, just to, like, get out of the discomfort, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, when I started this job, you know, it was like a door opening, right? It was like, I was looking for, like, I wanted some change, and then it was like, oh, how about, like, quite literally, someone was like, I think you'd be great for this, and, like,
right.
was like, check this out, and I had no idea it even existed. You know, and I'm super grateful for that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And I've heard that quite a bit lately, like, even, like, from people around your age or people older than me, is like, dude, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Like, that same kind of, right? And they're like 55, maybe even 60, right? And they're like, I still don't know.
Right.
And I'm like, that definitely makes me feel better about it.
Right.
Because I'm like, it's okay not to know right now.
Of course.
And I may never know.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
I always tell my daughter, you know, how do you get experience? You got to get experience. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, you know, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. But how do you know you're not watering your neighbor's grass rather than your own? You know? And so that's, It's the mysteries of life, right? The reflection, the insight, and yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Because, yeah, I mean, I've thought that before, right? I've heard that expression so many times, like the grass is green where you water it, but it's like, well, what if you're watering the wrong grass?
Yeah. Well, it's like climbing the ladder. Well, what if the ladder's against the wrong building? I mean, what do you do? And how do you know? We don't know.
Yeah.
You can look at, there's probably people probably elders in your life, maybe dad, uncles, whatever, that they've been in the same job for 20, 30, 40 years, and you're like, man, how have these people done this? Mm-hmm. And is that because that's just where the workforce was in their time? Is it a generational thing? Mm-hmm. What is it? And then like people might shame us, or we might experience shame as a result of people saying, well, why are you changing jobs so much, or this or that?
Sure.
And it's like, well, what's wrong with it? It's like people believe in soulmates, but there's probably more than one soulmate out there for you.
Oh yeah.
So it's the same as jobs. Like you can be incredibly passionate about one job, but then they change the manager, or it gets bought out, and you're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
Everything changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I have a quote, and it's probably not mine, and it's always helpful to know that I've never had an original thought or said an original thing because of the billions of people that have walked this earth. Mm-hmm. I'm just not that original. But if I work for money, I'm a slave to money. So if I just work for me, then it's okay. And try to have a servient attitude.
Yeah.
And try to be helpful and have a good attitude and build my skill set and everything else. Again, we don't know what the universe has in store for us, right? Mm.
That brings up, it brings up a couple things. Hopefully I don't forget my second point.
All right.
But, the idea of like having one soulmate, right, is like, I was so married to that idea, especially in my very first serious relationship. And then when that ended, it was like, fucking, the world's crumbling,
Right.
It's over. And, lo and behold, like I found a second woman and like that's ended now. And that was awesome, right? Like it was a great experience. And like my perception on the relationship, even though it came to an end, is way different than it was the first go around with the first lady, right? So like up until now, like those were still like the best like 4 years of my life, even though it ended up going sour and it didn't work out and it was mutual and everything's, hunky-dory. It was like, I can really look at that and draw a lot out of it. Like it was still great,
Right.
But like, so after the first relationship is like, well, that'll never happen again, right? And then I meet someone like, oh, this seems like a lot better in a lot of ways, right? And then that comes to an end, and then now it's like, well, this seems a lot better in a lot of ways. Like, you really limit yourself, I believe, and like close yourself off to even the experience of like, hey, there may actually be someone even better out there for you. And that doesn't mean like run away from the person that you're with, but if it's not working and comes to an end, it's like, I mean, I can get along with a lot of people and develop relationships with a lot of people.
And lust is a powerful thing.
But who am I like committed to? I mean, there's still like fundamental principles and beliefs that would be like ideal for, or needs even, if you will, that I'd like to have in a partner if I'm gonna like commit to them. But it's like, you could commit to a bunch of women that are super awesome and just keep running away, right?
Hey, some religions permit that, right?
What are they?
But it's like, we're not, in this moment, I'm not the same man I was when I walked in. If you read a book today and you read a book tomorrow, the pages are going to say something differently because you're different. I think Lao Tzu said that no man steps in the same river twice. Everything is always changing and different, right? And that's why I think when we find that partner, that relationship where it's like, okay, I'm going both feet in, I'm going to commit, but it's work every single day. I heard a guy say, like, people in relationships, marriages, whether it's 2, 5, 7, 10 years down the road, like, oh man, my marriage isn't working out and this isn't going so well. And he says, well, why don't you just do the same thing you did in the first month of your relationship? And so if we did those things that we did earlier on, and if we kept that love and that lust and all of those things and the passion, but it's tricky, man. It takes a couple of, I think spiritually awakened beings and souls to have that deep, intimate connection, right? And as men, I think it's our job to lead that path, right? Personally, and when we talk about beliefs, and you said something about your beliefs and being limited, well, and I thought, we're only as good as our limited beliefs. And where do our beliefs come from? Are they yours? Most likely
No,
not.
they've been
Environmental.
Yeah.
So whose life are you living? Are you living your life, or your mom's life, or your dad's life? And again, getting grounded, centered, healing the wounds, doing all the inner work, and being so centered in our being, knowing that this is my path, this is my mission, I have this independence and all of these things, driving forward, and somewhat trying to be unshakable,
Yeah.
And that's tricky. They say for a man, the male brain develops at 25, where it's finally finished developing, not finished learning and growing, because they say the mind is like, or the brain is like plastic, right? It's ever growing. And a female is 25, I believe. A man is 27 or 28. So being 25 years old, there's still more for your brain to do, And so if we have this conversation in 2 years, it would be interesting to see that version of Daniel, right? It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. When you said 25, I'm like, oh, fuck. But, yeah.
Do you remember your second point that you had?
Oh, no.
The first one was relationships and soulmates. You had a second.
I don't remember. But interestingly enough, like today at work, we were talking about core beliefs and where they come from. What's our life gonna look like if we continue to hold on to those?
Right.
And like, what's our new belief gonna be? And
Right.
kind of like how are we gonna act on that kind of deal?
Right. And here's the thing. Why do you have to have a belief? Because if you believe something, you know it's true. How do you know it's true?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like devil's advocate, right? Is like you can make anything true in your mind, like if you look for evidence, right? Like
Yeah, can justify everything and anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, for myself, for example, right? It's like this. We'll just use the core belief of like, maybe I'm not good enough, or like I'll never amount to success, or like achieve my dreams, or like, right, something like that, or like I'm stupid. Maybe we'll even use that, right? Like I'm stupid. And looking back, it's like it's all these experiences that have like compounded over time, right? Like whether that would be, let's say in high school, right, is like I start drinking and smoking weed. Prior to this, like middle school, definitely a little bit of like class clown and not really applying myself, but like elementary school was like, I would say I did pretty well in mostly everything. Then, once how I started applying myself like changed, it's like, oh, well, here's like a C, here's a C minus, here's an F, right? And it's like, it's not that I was stupid, it's that I wasn't fully applying myself, you know? But it's like, yet this is still something that I'm holding on to and believe in. Or like the actions that I took, and, you know, God bless my father, but we'll just call it what it is, right? Is like, you know, like, what are you, a fucking idiot? Like, you fucking retarded, right? Like stuff like that. And at the time, like, I'm sure even for him, he's not thinking much of it. I can't imagine that he was maybe told any better at the same age. But regardless, is like, that stuff really stuck with me. And at the time is like, I don't think about it sticking at all. But it can crop up now, right? Like, especially if I make a mistake. Like, if I can't think of a specific example, but like in sobriety, if I've made a mistake, is like, I feel like horrible about it. Like, I'm like a bad person, like, shame.
There's still a wound there then.
Yeah.
And that's where your work is, because one, you're if it was coming from your father, whoever it comes from, they're projecting their traumatic lens onto you, as opposed to, Daniel, what happened in school? Did you work as hard as, like with my daughter, if there's an error, or maybe she didn't do as well as she thought she could do, so did you do your best? Yeah. Did you work your hardest? Did you do your work? Yep. It's good enough. Rather than, conforming to the school environment that puts a grade on your paper because you can't memorize something.
Yeah.
I was talking with a teacher, I think maybe today, and said, like, school is supposed to teach you to learn how to learn. They don't. They teach you to memorize. And if you do what's taught, then they give you a little letter at the top of a paper. And what does that mean? You can look at many of the multimillionaires in the world, entrepreneurs or whatever, they failed school, and it's crazy, really, right? So, I think for me, like, when I make an error, whether it's in judgment or something practical, it's like, okay, here's a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
What's the gift and what's the blessing, right? I don't, for me, yeah. And I guess in my years, I've had so many jobs. There's been many, you can call them failures or whatever, learning experiences. But today it's like, I just do my absolute best. And if I'm wrong, well, I need to be accountable, right? But I also don't feel like, we need to conform to society's expectations. There's another saying that says, school gets in the way of our education, right? And if you were to look up the word education, I forget the definition, but it just means to grow, that constant learning. And the crazy thing is, if when you were in those school classes or whatever, they were actually teaching you and the human you were designed to be, I'm like, Daniel, you're really great with conversation and communication. Let's develop that.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd have 1 million views today. Who knows?
That would be the ideal in school, right?
Well, and I think there are some countries in school systems that do teach that. They cater to what you're designed for, right?
Yeah.
And that's a massive flaw with our culture and our system, right?
Yeah. Thinking about that too, I mean, interestingly enough, like, one of the subjects that I did really enjoy when I applied myself was like English, like writing papers or whatever the case, when I wasn't busy doing extracurricular activities, or like PE, right? Like, especially if it was competitive.
Right.
But other subjects, like, I didn't have a lot of interest in them, right? And like, looking back, like, school definitely taught me some important stuff that helped later on.
Right.
Like showing up on time.
Exactly.
And like, participating and that kind of deal. But like, when it comes to like recalling, knowledge or stuff that I learned in school, like a lot of it isn't there. Like maybe like the format of an essay, because I kind of enjoyed English.
Right.
But, if someone was like, do some long algebra right now or something, I'd be like, dude, I know, like maybe some of an idea, or like do long division. I'd be like,
no.
try my best. But a lot of it, I mean, up until this point, hasn't really applied to my life. Like,
Right.
simple math equations, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, the whole school system and everything else, right? It's like I try to coach and encourage my daughter, like, part of our culture and our society in North America is that we go to school, and you got to go to school to get the right ladder up against the right building and climb to wherever you need to climb to, earn the kind of income you want to earn, right? And that's what it is. Yeah. But as kids, we strive and we, attach to, the outcome. And it's funny, I remember my daughter when she was younger, I don't know if it was grade 7 or 8, saying something about what she's being taught in school. And I said, your teacher's only teaching you what she's being taught, or what the government or school system has given them to teach you. So it doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but it says you don't have to agree with it.
Yeah.
And you ought to challenge other people's thinking and teachers' thinking, because, who says they know?
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, like, I got to think a lot of that kind of stuff is like, well, for sure, like fueled by ego, right? Is like, I know and you don't kind of a deal. And
yeah, power and control.
yeah. And people, like, I mean, everywhere, not even only in the school system, like really carry that around, right? Is like, I know and you don't know. Yeah. This is what's going to happen. This is like, I've seen this before. And like, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong either, but they're so married to the idea of being right, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Well, they have this conviction and this belief, and when you believe it, I know I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I don't know. And that's the most beautiful gift we can receive as a human is, I don't know. Well, why do I have to know? What if I just be? Rather than having a belief, what if I just have this awareness that I don't know, and it's okay. It's good.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to a guy today at work, if I die tonight, what does it matter? No, it's true. If you were to die tonight, what would any of it mean? We're going to be forgotten in 2 generations, 3 generations, right? So, I think it's a healthy thing to think about our mortality and our death. I heard that, and it's true that we don't think about our own death. We think about other people's deaths. Somebody dies and we're all sad and everything else. We think we're immortal. And then it's like, shit, I'm 100 pounds overweight and I'm drinking a case of beer a night and smoking a pack of cigarettes, and it's all good.
Yeah.
So it's like, was it one of my other mentors said, we live and we die. Let's not get them confused.
Yeah. I think I'm like, the idea that anyway, like, it can be like, I can get wrapped up in like, what are people gonna say about me when I die, or like, what are people gonna think, or like, instead of just like,
you're gonna be dead, it won't matter.
Exactly. And as opposed to just like living the way that I want to and
exactly
find enjoyment and fulfillment in.
Exactly.
Instead of and how many people are gonna be at my funeral and are they gonna say great things about me? It's like, it really doesn't.
Yeah, it's ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. What does Wayne Dyer say? That ego is edging God out. So whatever I put between me and God, I put between me and God, or me and spirit, universe.
Yeah.
If I can live in just the moment, in the now, without that projection of all the bullshit, then I'm in humility, which is that oneness with universe, right?
Yeah.
and then you can be pulled into that path that was potentially intended for us, right? So,
Do you find, and obviously I do this, I have enough humility to say that at least, but like when you're around a lot of people who are constantly like projecting and, yeah, we'll just leave it there. Do you find it more difficult to like be authentic to yourself and not do that? Like if you're in an environment where a lot of that is going on?
yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because if the environment is a place I can't just leave, it becomes tricky, and then I have to just breathe and let it in and out, right? However, I've created a life for myself today that generally I can just remove myself from that, because everything is energy, right? So if you're around a negative person, you're gonna become more negative. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Right? So they call them boundaries, right? And I think we were talking about this last night a little bit, right? Like protecting ourselves, protecting little Daniel, or little Dale, like our inner child, right? And but being aware and present enough to recognize it and be like, hey, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So I would have found it more difficult in previous years. However, the way I show up for myself today, I don't, because you run into it everywhere. Most people aren't awake in their own life. They're a condition of their programming or their conditioning, and they just live, unconsciously maybe, and there's just different levels of consciousness, I feel, right? So it's it's always an interesting thing being in different environments with different people and the relationships, right? And it's one thing I've shared with you before, and I have it with a lot of my friends, because the lifestyle that I've created is that when you have trust and respect and connection with somebody, it's just love.
Yeah.
And you just talk, and you can't say anything wrong, because it's just not going to come out, and it's not going to be received that way either, right?
Yeah. Relationships that don't have those three aspects can be difficult to navigate.
They're toxic.
Yeah.
Well, and the question, it's toxic, right? And then the question becomes, well, how do I remove myself from that toxicity? Especially if there's the self-esteem or the shame or the guilt that comes up, right? And a lot of times that happens because I feel like that's been the experience that I've had in my own life as well, whether it's family or old friends, right? But I know for myself, when I stopped drinking 3.5 years ago, I murdered my old self. Like, this guy's dead. Like, I'm gonna create the best version of myself that I can. And that's a lifelong journey, right? And, along the path, you gotta let people go. What's that saying? People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And if you know which one each are, well, then that's where the work is, to let them go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's hard because we become attached. Right?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, definitely, like, can become like part of your identity, is like,
yeah, I can't be me without you.
Yeah. And that's, well, here, I want to get your thoughts on this, right? Like, I heard someone share this at a 12-step meeting before, and it was like, like, we rely on the sick person to come in so we can be better. That kind of idea, right?
Right.
And I was just like, holy fuck. Like,
well, that's like going to the doctor and saying, I have a symptom. Can you give me some medicine? As opposed to, maybe I just eat better. Maybe I drink water, not pop. Maybe I don't eat those chocolate bars. That's a tricky one. And it's tricky, with the 12-step programs, because you don't get to a 12-step program without conditioning and programming yourself through years of unhealthy relationships, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, and these things, right? So if you go in and, you're trying to rely on that new sick person and trying to help them for yourself to be okay, that's another kind of attachment and dependency, right? As opposed to just being helpful, right? And again, those are identity crises, beliefs, right?
Well, I remember when I first got sober, like, it was a thought in my mind, like, what if none of this existed? Like, what if the help wasn't there? What if, like, maybe it helped me in the beginning, but just for sake of example, like, the world is lit on fire and it's like World War III, like, am I gonna be able, will I stay sober? Like, can I stay sober?
Right.
Do I have that in me, or is that reliant upon X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And I was like, even early on, I knew, at least as an ideal, is like, I want to get to a place where I don't have to rely on any of this stuff to keep me sober and happy. Yet it's there if I want it.
Right.
Is that making any sense?
I get it. And I it's a fine line, I feel, right? Like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, right?
Yeah.
The guy that started the 12-step programs was in the late 30s, right? If he hadn't have done it, somebody else would have started something else.
Yeah.
There are other ways. There always are. There always will be. There's lots of different things on social media about different programs or different whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, right?
It is.
And I mean, there's always going to be a way. I find it interesting in a 12-step meetings. There's certain demographics you don't see, certain cultures, right? And I have friends in those cultures, and a lot of them deal with it internally in families and stuff like that. And a lot of the people in 12-step meetings, we don't get there without some kind of traumas and events, right? That we have to mask. I don't know. I'm a firm believer that anything and everything's possible, right?
Yeah.
Like, who says that, we can't live a spiritual way of life without a 12-step meeting,
Well, many people do it.
Well, exactly, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've always, and I try to, I mean, in essence, I think this is something that they teach, right? Is keeping an open mind, yet a lot of people close their mind to any other way, It's this is the way. Right? And God bless, it's been the way for me too, but I'm not closed off to the idea of there being other ways, right? People do it.
Of course.
And
it's all conformity.
Yeah.
Right? It's no different than a Buddhist monastery that you conform to, or a Catholic church that you conform to, or whatever, right? Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? And I pondered as well, and I mean, I attend the 12-step meetings, right? And I'm very structured, I'm very disciplined, and I'm very consistent and committed. It's just how I live my life. I don't necessarily believe that if I don't go, that something's going to happen to me or what have you. Just a part of my lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So no question there's other ways. For me, it was really helpful, when I quit drinking and I started going to 12-step meetings, that I didn't really know, I looked like I was seeing through a tunnel. And then when I woke up, it was I could see quite wide, right? And, you go on social media, you see all these celebrities and other people that attend 12-step meetings. And I was like, wow, this is pretty powerful, right? So I didn't feel like I think maybe there's a level of shame when you stop drinking or whatever and you have to get help because I want to do it myself. I want to do it all myself, right? It's how we are. So, I think it's just kind of finding yourself, right? And it's like, well, what does it for me? Like, is it meditating 2 hours a day, going to a meeting a day, going to the gym for 4 hours a day? Like, what is it? Right? And I feel that when we wake up in our own lives, when we do the inner work and the healing, you find this awakened part of yourself that has a knowing. Okay, this is the path, but it changes, you know? And it's for nobody to tell you that you're on the wrong path because it's your journey, you know? And when somebody might say you're on the wrong path, well, they're projecting their beliefs. And it's not for anybody, family, friends, anyone, to say, hey, you're fucking up. You know, if you don't know that you're screwing up because you're not living right, that's a you problem.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you're involved in different groups of people, whether it's sports teams or the gym or the churches or 12-step programs or whatever it is.
Yeah.
People always want to project and they always want to give you feedback and they always want to tell you how to do it and what, you know. All we have is our own experience, and I can share my experience, but it's not for me to project my experience and say, hey, you ought to do this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It makes, I mean, I'm paraphrasing because someone else told me this story, but it's like a story, this is what I was told, like a story in the Bible where, I don't remember what Jesus is doing, and but anyhow, you know, these people are like sitting down or something, and he's kind of like, hey, come with me kind of deal. And they don't. And he just keeps going, you know, like it's not like this, like you need to come with me or this like push to get them to come, you know. It's just kind of like reaches out, offers it, but keeps trudging along, you know, like yeah, I don't know.
And I feel like that's, you know, like along that story, like it appears that here's a man that is so driven by his own vision, purpose, values, and principles that he knows what he has to offer, right? And he wants to welcome others and say, follow me, but not saying, hey, you need to follow me, tying him up by a rope and dragging him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, many stories that I've heard like about the Bible are kind of, they're intriguing, but I'm just like, and I'm not definitely not opposed to religion in any way. But I mean, I guess it's no different than anything else. Like the more people that try to like, you know, hey, you should really investigate this, or you need to look into this, is like, it has a tendency to like push me further away from, you know.
I mean, I think that that inner kind of spiritual walk is something we have to find for ourselves. You know, so when somebody says like you ought to do this, it's like, well, no, I don't. But we all have to find that for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and again, if it's somebody in your life that, you know, you can really deeply trust, and they're like, hey, this would be something good to look at, then it might be more persuasive than somebody that you're like, you know, you kind of contemplate their integrity, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like, I mean, I definitely look up to you in many respects, right? But if you like, you know, let's say you went to church every Sunday, and I don't know if you do, but let's say, you know, I was like, hey, how do you live the life that you live? How do you keep yourself so composed, and how do you carry yourself the way that you do? And you're like, oh, I go to church every Sunday, and I had no idea,
Right.
I would be pretty like inclined to like,
What's it all about?
yeah, maybe I should check that out.
Right.
And you'd be like humble enough to not like, you're not telling anyone what they need to do. It's just, you're doing it for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, and that's what attracts me to other people, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I watch what other people do because, you know, what do they say? I forget the phrase of it, but a really wise person doesn't learn from their own mistakes, but they learn from others' mistakes and they don't make them. So when we can watch other people and their actions, observe, kind of reflect on it, and be like, just doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't look like they're aligned, you know, through a strong value system or principles. It's like, okay, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And it's just that simple. However, taking the actions to separate from those types of people is tricky.
Yeah. Well, because the place that I'm at now too is like, I'm definitely inquisitive enough to like, you know, I'd have no problem asking you, for example, and you would be somebody that I would ask is like, hey, what does your morning routine look like? If that's something like I'm struggling with.
Right.
But, where was I going with that? I'm not too sure, but yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting. I've had a lot of people ask me that because I'm quite disciplined, and you know, when I sobered up, every day I woke up at 5 a.m. and I went for a 20-minute run and I meditated for 20 minutes and then I read and I journaled for 20 minutes and then I'd go to the gym, start my day, go to work. And then after time, I shifted. I healed a little bit, and that routine that I instilled was something I read out of a book. It was a great book, you know, and it worked incredibly well. And I know that if I was living that way today, it would still work incredibly well, but it's not my story today.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, you know, we talk about this, we talked about it earlier tonight, that if somebody wants to do something, they have to do it. You know, you have to have the desire, the want, and make the decision to do it. So if you want to have a morning routine, do it. If you want to stop drinking, do it. If you want to get help, fucking do it. You know, like, nobody's holding anybody's hands. And if you're holding somebody else's hand going through those things, well, they're not going through, I don't feel, how they need to go through it, right? Or we just diminish our own capacity because we don't know how to soothe ourselves or heal ourselves, or, you know, and that's what our culture and environment teaches us, that, oh, just call somebody, just go get 10 opinions and see what happens. You know?
Yeah.
Don't be self-reliant, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's BS. I think, you know, we all need connection and we all need love. Problem is we get it from the wrong people, you know?
Just like, yeah, well, what's going through my head, right, is like, I've had different parts of my life, or it's like, you know, let's say like I wanted to start a business, right? Like, I may reach out for 10 opinions and those 10 people may be like, that's a terrible idea. You know, like, it's going to be way harder than you think. And almost like saying like, there's no point. Right. Meanwhile, it could be like one of the best things that I ever did.
Of course.
And then, you know, I listen to these 10 opinions. Oh yeah, they're right. Like, it's hocus pocus, you know?
And see, if I were having those thoughts, which I've had those thoughts, I've had lots of different changes in careers and whatnot. So for me, I look at others, again, I watch people's actions, but I have built some pretty healthy relationships with some pretty healthy, strong people, entrepreneurs and all kinds of things, right? So if I was looking at saying, you know, if I was looking at parental advice, say, I would find one of my friends or mentors that is an incredible father.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it was business, I would find somebody that looked like they're doing pretty good in business. But then I'm the kind of guy that prepares. So I would have questions laid out and I'd be like, hey, let's go for lunch. And I have people like this in my life that I do this with.
Yeah.
You know, because it is important to, you know, get another perspective, as long as, again, it's trustworthy and they're value driven and these things. And you know that they're going to be honest with you, but they're not going to criticize and diminish you. Right? And I think if we have relationships with people and we leave that conversation and we don't feel good about it or ourselves, one, there's work for us to do inside, and two, it's like, well, why are those people in our lives? Because if that's the case, then there's boundaries that a person needs to work on, right?
Yeah, that's a valid point. I mean, when it comes to, I mean, back to your example, right? Like, if I was going to become a father, you would probably be one of the people that I would talk to, right? And, you know, without naming them, there's a few other people. But there's many other people who are also fathers who I would not seek their advice, you know?
Exactly.
I wouldn't be like, tell me about being a father, even though the fathering you're doing is not the fathering I want.
Right.
At all. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah, I had an interesting, I was going to ask this to somebody close to me the other day. And I was going to say, hey, are you the kind of father that you would want for yourself? You know? And that's a good question. You know, like I have these things called mission statements, and, you know, one of them, and a lot of them, again, not my words, but one of them is to like finish the day before it started. Or sorry, that's not a mission statement, that's like a vision statement. But one of them is, you know, to be the right kind of man, to have the right woman in my life. Right? Or, yeah, to be the kind of father that I would want for myself. And that's simply what I am today.
Yeah.
You know, I am for my daughter what I never had. And I've told my daughter, you're going to get fucked up, probably. You know, we can be the absolute best we can be. However, you know, there's going to be some things that happen that your kids are going to be like, fuck, what an asshole, or whatever.
Sure.
Right? And we just do the best we can. But I know from my experience in my relationship that I definitely give an experience that I would have wanted.
Holy crap. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at things, right? Like, for sure. And that, like, I mean, that's already been an idea I've had for a long time, is like, I mean, my father, like, was and is an amazing father, but like, there's things that I'm going to do differently, intentionally.
Of course.
Right? Like, ideally. And I feel like that should be, well, for me anyway, like the goal, right? Is like, even if you had an amazing father, it's kind of like, how can I be an even better father to my kid? Like, how can I give my kid what I didn't get?
Right.
Which might be, you know, maybe that like emotional vulnerability, you know? And
we don't know.
yeah, I don't, yeah.
Because we just don't know, right? And your kid could be 10 years old, 12 years old, smokes a cigarette, loves the nicotine hit, and then they're off smoking cigarettes, and then they're, next thing they know, they're looking for a different kind of, you know, hit. Could be pot, could be drinking that takes them away, and then they have that alcoholic, drug addict gene or whatever, right? You know, we just don't know. Like, I've been through that too. My daughter's had some experiences and nothing crazy or anything, but it's like, you know, you don't have that control either. So the only thing you can do is, again, live by your own value system, lead yourself, and hopefully that's enough. And hopefully you develop the skills and the abilities to connect with your child's heart. There's another saying that says, connect with one's heart, you can lead with their head. You know, otherwise you're just manipulating, right? But if you're coming at it with love and connection, you form that bond and that trust. And, you know, my daughter and I rarely argue. We rarely have a disagreement. And she's teaching me more about being a man and a father than anything else, because can tell you that a kid going through, teenage years, it's a wild experience. They're an adult in a kid's body becoming an adult, right? Like, it's wild. And so you have nothing but to like surrender and accept and kind of let go and let them fall on their face. And hopefully they say, hey, can you help me back up? And then you help them back up so they can find themselves in their own independence. And, I heard something when my daughter was born, that if you could teach a kid anything, teach them confidence. If you teach them confidence, you'll never have to teach them anything ever again. That inner belief in yourself, like that knowing that I'm enough, I'm okay. Rather than that, oh, I'm stupid or I'm dumb or what are they going to think about me, right? And normalizing it all too, right?
Yeah.
I've been quite vulnerable with my daughter, and I've shared a lot of things with her, things that my family never shared with me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want her to be exposed to human experience, healthy or unhealthy. Because it doesn't matter what necessarily I say, she's going to go down the road she goes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it.
Even with my dad, like, since I become more vulnerable and like in tune with myself, like, me even starting the conversations, like, stuff has come out of him and I'm like been a little bit taken back, like I had no idea, or like
it's wild.
I never fucking heard that story.
Well, it's a lot of people don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to share. They don't know how to get vulnerable. A lot of people, we do things like, whether it's people pleasing or whatever, like we do things so people are appeased, so we feel safe. A lot of parents, I feel like, they shelter the kids, or they don't want the kids to know, and it's interesting, like I was 15 years old. This is probably one of the most, traumatic events of my life. I gave my grandpa a big hug goodbye in Kamloops, drove back home to Quesnel. It was about a 4-hour drive. I got home. My brother and my mother were walking out of the door in tears. And my brother said, Grandpa died. I'm like, what? I just hugged him goodbye. He said he hung himself. So he hung himself with a skipping rope shortly after I left. And it destroyed me. I held on to it for years. The shame, the guilt, all of the things, and it had nothing to do with me. And I recently, probably in the last month, talked to my mom and my brother, and I've talked to my mom about it a few times because, it's my mom. I love my mom. I want her to heal. And I know the way to heal is through digging it up and moving through it, right? Mm-hmm. And I asked my mom, I said, why did you leave me? Because I was abandoned. First thing I did was I cried for about a half an hour in my pillow, and then I went and got high and I buried it, And my mom didn't even remember me coming home. She's like, I didn't know you came home. She's like, I just remember leaving. She said, Dale, my dad died. I had to go find out for myself. My brother, I asked him about it. I said, I felt abandoned and this and that. And my brother's experience was anger. And he was pissed off at me that I wouldn't go with him back to Kamloops, to go through it with them. But for me, I knew why my grandpa did it, and I couldn't face it because I was just there. So it's wild. We go through these experiences, and until we can get the perspective of the other person's experience, we just don't know.
Yeah.
And we can hold on to these things, and again, like these traumas or these generational things that come through us, right? So it's, I've spent a lot of time healing in the last 3.5 years, right? Reading and writing and podcasts and, trying different things, right? Meditation, and it's powerful. Yeah. we were, that came up
today too, interestingly enough, is like, you know, like we're all wearing a different pair of sunglasses, like with different shades, you know? Like something could happen right now to the both of us and we would have two different stories to tell.
Oh, of course.
You know?
Yeah.
And then maybe even a third story with the video.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's very interesting how different people internalize different things.
What I think is such a beautiful thing about, you know, being human and getting to have the gift of life experience, you know, is understanding your own experience, being centered, and having close enough people to you that you can say, hey, what was your experience with that? And understanding, like, actually understanding with empathy, compassion, and love what the experience is without judgment, and be like, oh, I didn't see it that way. I understand you a little better now. Like, that's powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
But most relationships aren't like that, right? But when I had that conversation with my mom and my brother, through it, I was like, there was like more, maybe more letting go, more family healing as a result of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a tricky thing, right? Living a spiritual walk and understanding that every action has a consequence. And, you know, not going into analysis paralysis when you're going to intend to do something and thinking about the outcome or how it's going to affect somebody else, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like bringing something for me up, and that's like, you know, when we lost my grandmother, you know, it's like the beginning of COVID, and like my parents were in Mexico and they came home, and like I knew that my grandma was in the hospital, and I was like waiting in the driveway, like just like bawling my eyes out. And they're just like, you know, come home from this vacation, like what happened? And then like I can barely even like get the words out to tell my mom, like this is my mom's mother. And you know, just the way that things all transpired is like they couldn't even go into the hospital because of all these.
Oh, right, COVID.
Yeah. So I was like the person that had to go into the hospital, and then like I'm in there with my dying grandmother, like, you know, Zooming my parents, you know, like it was it was a very interesting experience, and I don't think I even like still right now, like I don't think it's been fully processed,
Right.
or like I haven't had this conversation even with my mom, like, and even said like that was like really tough for me, or like what was that like for you? Like I don't.
You might not have the words yet.
Yeah.
I think it'll come, and that's tricky, man. And that's not something a child should have to go through. And you might, how old are you? Well, I guess it was
17, 18,
Right.
17 or 18.
Yeah, I mean that's a tricky thing, right? It's and the crazy thing about human experience is that, and we're talking about like negative energy again in relationships and going into environments. Like I know that I can never unhear a heard word, so I need to be like aware of that in whatever environment I'm in, because I don't want to be listening to garbage, you know. The same thing is like when we see things like this supercomputer that we have, that we live in, it doesn't ever forget anything. It stores everything, right? So those images and those things and everything that you went through with her, like that's still there. And
Oh yeah.
and so I think that's a powerful thing about, you know, a person can do therapy or EMDR stuff or whatever, and you work through that stuff, you reprocess it, and you detach more from that event, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of my missions in my own life is, you know, do absolutely all of the work that I need to do to detach from the experiences that have those negative files within me, right?
like, for you, like, what was the fuel behind, like, hey, I'm gonna bring this conversation up with my mom and my brother? Because for me, I'm like, I'm scared to bring it up with my mother, because like I don't want her to go back into the pain, you know? Like, I'm scared to like rehash it, if you will,
Right.
even though I'm not entirely sure that it's even really been, you know, processed, if you will, for the either of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it always depends too on how that transpires, right? Like, I think with my mom, like, I talk to her once a week, twice a week, and I ask questions. Like, how was the experience for you? Like, how, you know, and then hopefully that opens something up, and then it allows you to open up,
Yeah.
right? For me, it's every conversation I have is intentional. I don't do surface level conversations. I can't connect to you about the weather or the video games or anything else. I know you like video games.
Come on, man. You saw Battlefield 6 and you're like, that looks sick.
So it's intentional, right? Like when they say communication is to be in communion with someone. So if I'm in that space with somebody, I want to connect. And how do you connect? Well, it's through the heart. It's not through the thoughts and the thinking and the stuff that doesn't mean anything. So for me, it's like, you know, my healing, you talked about your dad healing and stuff through yours. Well, of course that's true, right? Like, you're his little boy and you're doing very well. And of course that's going to affect him and change him. And it's done the same for my family as well. You know, like I had a session with a counselor not too long ago, and I was good the whole time. And then at the very end, I said, I know that my healing is helping my mom heal. And I let go, right? It's powerful. But I also, I've gotten quite vulnerable with my mom as well. And it's funny, I've had obviously some issues and challenges in my past life. And we project sometimes onto our parents through anger, fear, whatever. Maybe we're not the nicest people at times. But over the last few years, we communicate a lot, right? And I have a better relationship with my mother and pretty well everybody in my life than I've ever had.
Yeah.
So knowing that I just don't have that fear, and I'm not afraid to poke somebody that's close to me, my family, to ask them a hard question, because you're gonna ask them and you're gonna know. Either they're gonna pull back and you're like, hey, you're not ready, you know, and that's okay.
That's fair.
Or it's a lot of the stuff that's come out through conversations with my immediate family is sharing, hey, I went and got some therapy, and this is what I've worked through, and man, I'm so thankful and grateful. You know, my grandpa that committed suicide, I wrote him a letter, you know, and I wrote him a letter because I was so angry. I felt a lot of anger that, you know, he killed himself, and I held on to it, right? So I wrote a letter to let go of it all, and I read it to my mom. You know, I don't know if that was good or bad, but I wanted to share with her about, you know, my experience, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. And maybe that's a process for you, right? You know, I don't know. I think probably, you know, when you're alone and you're in the quiet, you know what to do, right? I always share with my daughter, we know what's right and wrong. You know what you have to do. And we talk about this with relationships. Mm-hmm. You know what you need to do for you. Mm-hmm. Question is, when are you going to do it? Or why are you doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just for me, it just comes back to fear.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. What's
going to happen? What is their reaction going to be? How are other people going to view this, right? It's instead of how is it making me feel right now?
Right.
And how would I most likely feel if I followed through with what I believe is right?
Right.
Probably pretty good.
Well, if you do what's right, or if you do what you feel is right and it's aligned, then it's not wrong.
Yeah.
And so I've had situations like that in the past, which I've shared with you.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter what I do. If I'm working, if I'm raising my daughter, like I can't do things and try to be attached to an outcome. Because if I'm attached to an outcome, it seems like maybe that's ego. If I'm just doing things out of love and intention, then that's the best I can do.
And if it's you know, a mistake or whatever the case is, like, hopefully you or I or whoever has enough humility to, like, I made the wrong call and learn from it and move on. Like,
That's right.
it's no different than a lot of the other stuff that we talked about, really, in principle. It's like,
Yeah. It's interesting, Daniel, like the 12-step meeting things, there's like principles in the book, and there's like, and they're all derived from the Bible, like spiritual teachings, stuff like that. And so I think when you can be grounded in your principles, like what more does a man need? What more does any human need? If you're grounded, principally centered, strong values, and that keeps coming up, but it's just, I think it's the most important thing. Because if we do that and we instill that in our kids, or we have those relationships based on that as well, what a gift.
yeah. And I guess, like, in important relationships in my life today, like, I know that it's important for a lot of my principles, like, to be aligned with that other person, you know? And at least on a fundamental level, like, that doesn't mean we need to share the exact same principles, because we may very well not, but there are some that are, like, pretty important to me, like, for sure.
Yeah, like if you didn't have integrity, I wouldn't be here right now. It's just, that's number one. And when you have those things within you, generally you can see when others don't. You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't used to live that way, right? So that's been the biggest change for me, is not living that way, changing, waking up, living this way now. And it's like, you know, I don't want to be a part of other people's mess. It's not for me, you know?
Yeah. That's been, the idea that has, like, been very true for me, and, like, definitely dancing a fine line, a line along this, in the sense of, like, I know that I'm not always right, but I feel like the better that I've gotten to know myself, the better I've gotten to know others as well.
Of course.
So I'll just use this as an example. Like, if somebody's, like, fake crying, that's just what I'll call it, like, for attention or for whatever it is for, there's something in me that is like, that is not genuine. And then, like, sure enough, however it does, like, it comes out of the woodworks.
Right.
Yeah, those were crocodile tears.
Right.
You know? And, but like I said, it's, when that stuff happens, like, I have to remind myself, like, you're not right all the time. Like, you know? But yeah, it's just very interesting in observing other people's behaviors, especially if I have never had those behaviors.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to, like, understand them, you know? But I guess maybe through communion, maybe I can understand them, right? Like, they come from somewhere.
Yeah, well, it's programming and conditioning, right? Like, actions are created from behaviors, which are created from emotions and thoughts. So if somebody has poor actions, probably their thinking isn't too great. So if your thinking ain't so great, sorry, Daniel, but we can't hang out.
Yeah. Like, on the topic of integrity too, like, and this is something that I'm actively working on right now, is, like, I'll have great integrity with others, but when it comes to myself, that's the department that I'm lacking in.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
if I say, Dale, 5:30 is the time, and hey, just let me know if anything comes up. Like,
Yep.
my whole evening's open, so it's no big deal.
right.
But I am expecting to see you tonight. If anything changes, let me know. This is just what has been happening lately, right? Is like I tell myself, like, I'm gonna get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. No ifs, ands, or buts. There's no fucking rolling around in the covers, and you're gonna get up, shower, do X, Y, and Z. And it's like a lot of the times I won't follow through with that, even though that's a promise that, let's say, I made to myself tonight that I'm gonna do tomorrow morning.
Right.
When I don't follow through with those actions, I also know myself well enough that, like, I don't feel very great about what I'm doing because I'm breaking all these promises to myself.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to not only change the behavior, but like, where does that come from and why is it happening? Because I've had that level of integrity with myself be at a good level before, So why? And I mean, is a degree of it situational? Maybe, and probably, but it's like, how long ultimately, I guess, am I gonna like make excuses rather, for like not, like this morning, okay?
As long as you want to keep them.
Yeah. Like this, yeah. Until you're in enough like discomfort, I guess, or like.
Yeah, if you make excuses, you get to keep them.
Yeah.
And so what I was thinking when you're saying that is discipline. Discipline and a strong enough why. It's great to say that we're going to do something, but if we don't have a strong enough reason to do it, we're not going to do it. Yeah, a lot of times we don't change unless we're in enough discomfort. But yeah, when we don't do what we say what we're going to do, we break our own confidence.
Yeah.
This
is like, doing this is one of those things, right? As like, no one's going to listen to it. Freaking AI is going to be doing podcasts with whoever the hell it wants. Like, there's no point. Or like this morning is a great example. Is like, typically I leave here around 6. I'll get up at I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, like, no matter what. But that doesn't mean I get out of bed at 5 a.m. So I may lay there for 40 minutes in and out of sleep. Okay, I should probably get up now because I need to brush my teeth, do this, and then get out the door.
Right.
So I'm leaving myself this 20-minute window to get ready, prepare for the day, and leave.
Maybe set your alarm for that 20-minute window, and then you get to sleep and see how you feel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know I've been doing it for a while now, and I've had that morning routine in my life before, and I know that it feels really good to start the day getting something done. And that can even just be waking up earlier and feeling more alert before I leave the house. I still make my bed every morning. That is something that has not gone away. But okay, so this morning I got up at 5, and last night I was like, I'm getting up at 5. I did get up at 5, but I stayed in bed till 10 after, which is dramatic improvement. But I got up and I was like, I'm gonna have a shower this morning. Typically I don't. Typically I'll clean myself at night and then just kind of roll out in the morning. But that's something that I used to do every morning.
Right.
Was shower, brush my teeth, do all this stuff, right? And it was a good setup for my day. And this morning, even though I think I got a better sleep last night than I typically do, but I felt like I had a lot more energy today and was more alert in the morning and focused and I felt better about the day.
Right.
And I'm just really trying to enforce that. I use my fatigue and my shitty sleeps as an excuse not to start my day better. But it's sleeping in and going in and out of sleep for 40 minutes.
Right.
Is probably only making me more tired.
Oh, it is. And that's probably one of the unhealthiest things for a person. I know it is. Studies have shown this. Right.
Even I know this to a degree, yet
Yeah.
I do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm like choosing to do it. Like it is a choice.
Yeah.
This morning was a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could have done the 5:40 thing, but I knew I wanted to feel better. Like I'm done feeling like shit every day.
Right.
So let's try the 5:10 thing and see what happens.
Right.
Produce good results. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Hopefully I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, Curtis, who I had on, he was talking about like the feeling that's like produced after you do something. You know, it's like after, let's say, like I played ball hockey. I'm like, fuck, that was so much fun. Like that's one of my like favorite things I've done in sobriety, like for sure. I'm just using that as an example though. It's like you can like forget that feeling and make up all the reasons not to go to
course.
ball hockey, right? Even though after every time you're like, that was awesome. Like I fucking love that. You know? And I know, you know, being lazy is like,
That's one of the 7 deadly sins.
yeah.
Sloth.
And it's a character defect of mine, like for sure.
Yeah.
So even becoming aware of that and like remembering that and really looking at that is like, dude, that's probably something like you're going to have to work at every day. Even if it's just a small thing, because, you know, left to my own devices, if I will, is like, I can be a lazy son of a bitch, you know?
Video games all day.
Yeah. And then like, and I don't feel good about that.
Yeah.
Video games sometimes are like awesome and I thoroughly enjoy them and they're not taking an X out of my life.
Yeah.
But I need to find that balance where like, I need to be okay with like an hour of video games a day or none a day. You know, like what's really important? Not the video games. Like you can unlock all the guns, get all the trophies, and do all the stuff, but like no one gives a fuck.
No.
Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if I showed you my game right now and it was like, look at all the stuff I unlocked, you'd probably give 2 fucks.
No, I just walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's having that right strong enough why.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna do something if we don't want to do it. However, doing something good when we don't want to do it is good. You know?
Yeah.
When it's tricky. I mean, I'm that same way, right? Going to the gym and in the morning. Tomorrow morning I'll get up early, I'll go to the gym and do my thing and go to work and, you know, have coffee with a fella tomorrow after work, and it's going to be busy. My days and weeks are busy, right? There's 1,440 minutes in the day. I sleep for about 420 of them. So, you know, those other 1,000 and some odd minutes, how do I fill my time, right? And sometimes it's overwhelming. You know, do I want to get up at 5 every morning? I do. And I still want to go back to my old routine. The struggle for me is I have earplugs in at night and I hear the people upstairs and I can't fall asleep till like 11. So I have to accept that that's the situation I'm in. Give myself grace, not be hard on myself, do the best I can. You know, last night I was trying to go to bed early. I started a series on TV. I'm like, it was pretty good. And I think next thing I know, it's 11:30 at night. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not getting up at 6. That's okay. You know?
Yeah. Have that grace with yourself too.
Yeah, the grace and compassion and, you know, but that comes with time too, right? And growth. And I mean, if you have that inner peace, contentness, humility, what does it matter? The most, I feel like the absolute most important thing is how we're feeling on a moment-to-moment basis throughout the day. And if I feel good, if I'm doing good, if I experience joy, if I experience gratitude, what more do you need? You know, we're so driven in a materialistic world that I have to get this and I have to get that. And again, if I die tonight, what does it matter? Really?
Yeah.
You know?
It's like that Denzel Washington quote. He's like talking about like, you know, I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse.
Yeah,
right?
that's
And
right.
it's like, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Well, exactly. Yeah, no. You know, I think about my own death often, you know, and I think it's important because it keeps you grounded. It keeps you in your shoes and be like, shit, am I living well? Am I living to my potential? Like my vision, I have a vision statement on my fridge of how I want to live and the kind of man that I want to be. And at the end of it is to experience life to my highest potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right now in this moment, this is my highest potential, right?
Yeah.
And I know that if I did die tonight, I lived pretty well today.
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Today is one of those days.
Right?
So yeah, it's good to look at like, how can I make more days like today?
Yeah, just do what you did today and do it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's it. Simple.
Yeah.
You know, and they say, 22 days is the start to build a habit. 66 days is when I think the neurons start to rewire in your brain. 90 days is where it starts to become like automaticity. So it's like a habit to brushing your teeth. You just do it. And then it becomes lifestyle, right? So although I don't do the exact same thing I did 3.5 years ago, I have still used that as a foundation to have a really healthy lifestyle.
Sure.
And boundaries and give myself grace. But it all started with discipline. And I know that some of the things that I've attained in my life experience now that I don't see in other people is discipline. You know, it's a gift.
Yeah.
And if you want it, you'll find it. I was just thinking you could just set an alarm in your bathroom and make it so it doesn't shut off, and then you have to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Little things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Got lots to think about now.
Or do 5-10 again. See if 5-10 works.
Yeah. Well, that's what I told myself today is like 5-10 at the latest tomorrow is still a win.
Yeah.
Any earlier is extra awesome. You know? But let's not
Maybe 5's not your time. Maybe it's 5-10.
maybe.
You know?
Maybe. It's, yeah. I mean, I set like, part of me is like, we should wrap this up because I won't shut up. But I set the bar so high for myself in my mind that it's like, I'll never reach the bar anyway. You know?
Again, that's self-esteem shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I never feel good because I'm never getting close to the bar. Like I can't even touch it, you know?
Why does there have to be a bar though?
There doesn't. But in my mind there does. You know? To anyone else, like, and having people like this in my life definitely helps, but who are like, dude, you're doing awesome. Like you should be, maybe not you should be, but like, helping me get to like gratitude for where I'm at, because it's not like, it's way better than I would have been if I continued doing the stuff that I was doing before.
Yeah.
And even then I had this bar set for myself that I was way further away from then than I am now, you know?
Well, when you wake up in the morning at 5:10, say thank you. Feel gratitude. When you don't wake up at 5:10 and it's 5:40, say thank you. Feel gratitude. Change your thinking. Yeah, simple.
Should we wrap it
Not
up
easy.
on that?
Sure.
On gratitude?
Gratitude.
Feels right.
Yeah, right.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming, man.
Oh, you betcha.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man.